Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's your guy, Ike Jones. We are here in midweek report talking about all of the games in the SEC. Auburn's on the bye week, and we need to discuss a lot of stuff. Let's get straight to it, man. It's the latest edition of the midweek report. Happy Wednesday to all the War Report family out there. We appreciate everybody for jumping in here with us on the latest edition of the Midweek Report, brought to you by the Rage Room, 2 locations for your destructive purposes. If you have anything that you need to get some aggression out, head over to the Rage Room in Opelika. That's 1510 2nd Avenue in Opelika. And the Birmingham Rage Room, which is located at 2616 7th Avenue South in Birmingham, Alabama. Birmingham location includes axe throwing. So if you just want to throw an axe at, some stuff, you could do that and not worry about getting sued or something like that, because this is what the purpose is over there. So make sure you guys head over there and, make sure you tell them the War Report sent you when you do that. In addition to all of those things, you guys can support what we've got going on here at the War Report by sharing the content. Share the content with somebody out there at the War Report on social media. Like this video and subscribe to the channel out there on YouTube if you can, please. In addition, you can become a member of the War Report. War Report members get a lot of great benefits. Be on the lookout tomorrow. We'll try to do some office hours for y'all tomorrow, so y'all be on the lookout for that. Members Green Name Gang, get your notifications live and ready for that. If you are a member and you want to gift a membership to somebody, you can do that right now, and they get a free month of membership on you. Also, you can check out the Autograph app. Use referral code rapport when you do that. Autograph is like a one-stop shop to bring all of the fan content that you want. So when you download it on your phone, use code rapport. It populates the content specifically for Auburn when you use that code. So you can have all of the great fan content that you want, including podcasts from you guys right here from the Auburn Express. So make sure you guys tap in with that. But enough of all of those shenanigans. B. Will is in here with me tonight, and we are talking week 7 of the SEC.
We are.
And a lot of decent games on the slate this week. A lot of decent games on the slate. B. Will, how you feeling this Wednesday, man, before we get into all of this?
It's so crazy that they decided to end the college football season in week 6. I don't know why they did it. I don't know why college football just doesn't come on my TV anymore. But you know what? I turned it on. I looked for it. Last week, after we played, I didn't see any more college football. I doubt I'll see any more for the rest of the season. It's over. So it's basketball season. That's how I'm feeling. And let's press on.
Well, I mean, there are still people playing football out here. We're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the games that are happening right now. I'll try to start with the least interesting game that's on the slate, and that is Missouri traveling up to Amherst, Massachusetts, to play UMass, who has won 1 of their first 6 games, 1-6. 11 a.m. on ESPN2. The spread has Missouri 27.5 favored. 54.5 is the over-under. B. Will, you going to pick an upset this week for Missouri getting upset up in Amherst against the struggling UMass Minutemen?
Absolutely not. I mean, Missouri's going to win this game. They have to win this game. They need to. So they will. Nothing interesting to see here.
Yeah, I don't see any. I mean, even though they got punked by Texas A&M and they are similar colors to their uniforms, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen this week with Missouri. So, yeah, go and chalk that win up to Missouri. They cover? You think they cover the 27.5?
I do. I think they will.
I think they're looking for revenge this week, so might get ugly up there for the Minutemen. Next up on the weekly slate, 11 a.m. on ABC, the Alabama Crimson Tide looking to bounce back after the shocking loss to Vanderbilt In Bryant-Denny Stadium, they are welcoming South Carolina, who is 3-2. Bama favored by 21 points with a 50.5 over under. Can number 7 Bama bounce back versus South Carolina? Be Will, what say you?
They will bounce back, I suspect. Obviously, their defense maybe has some holes in it, but I mean, we knew that Vanderbilt was better than they were being billed. All right, so are we surprised that Vanderbilt beat Bama? Yes, but does that mean that Bama's falling apart? No. And South Carolina is having some trouble putting up offense consistently. So Bama is going to be hurt in a way that I don't think they've been hurt over the last, 10 years. Maybe since the kick six is the last time. I know that they were hurt by that. Coach, players, everybody. I think last week took them down. My group chat was quiet. It was quiet. AF. This is going to be their get back game. I think they get it back in blood, So sorry, South Carolina. You're gonna feel the funk this week.
Yeah, I don't see a reason why South Carolina gets this dub. I do like the South Carolina defense. I thought that they were going to do better last week. They let me down last week in a tremendous fashion.
Yeah.
But because I thought, man, they was gonna punk Ole Miss a little bit, and Ole Miss was like not so fast.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think this is the week where they get back on track with that. I do think this is closer than 21 points, though. I don't know if they score over 3 touchdowns as a margin of victory in this one, but yeah, I think Bama gets this one pretty easily. So,
Okay.
All right, next up on this one, and it gets a little bit more interesting after this one. This one's not going to be interesting in my opinion. 3:15 p.m. on SEC Network in Sanford Stadium in Athens. Number 5 Georgia taking on Mississippi State. Georgia favored by 34 in this one. Mississippi State, Jeff Lebby coming into the house with his Bulldogs. Upset time for number 5 Georgia?
No, Georgia's still Georgia. They got to figure out some of their offensive playmakers. They really got to get a couple guys, but they just lost a wide receiver, if I'm not mistaken.
They did. He's suspended right now.
Doing wild, crazy, immoral, irresponsible, derelict stuff. So yeah, they should be down a couple pieces, but Mississippi State just doesn't have much in the cupboard, man. They're not gonna put up no fight. So yeah, Georgia wins. Spread is 34. I don't know if they cover. Covering is a big, not because they can't.
Georgia hadn't really been putting that kind of spanking on P4 teams this season.
They have not. So I don't expect that to be the case here. This is more about reputation. Mississippi State bad, Georgia good, so the spread will be wide. But I take Mississippi State to cover.
I agree with you on that as well. All right, now we get into some games that may be a little more interesting.
All right,
Florida versus Tennessee. Florida 3-2 record right now. I'd like to point out has a better record than Auburn with that ridiculously difficult schedule they have. 6 p.m. on ESPN in Neyland Stadium. Florida just off of beating the brakes off of UCF, and Tennessee licking their wounds after taking their first L of the season. Tennessee favored by 15.5 at home, with a 55.5 over under in this one. Is Tennessee going to get back right this game at home, or does Florida continue to keep Billy Napier's career at Florida on life support?
I think Tennessee wins. There's nothing better than a coming home for a freshman quarterback. This was Nico's first year starting. That was his first SEC road game last week, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Road game, yes. I think that's his first, SEC road game.
Yeah. So that kind of stuff matters to somebody who hasn't been to all these different stadiums in front of all these fans before. I think coming home will be what they need. They will win the game. I could not say how much. I don't think Billy's squad is awful. The defense is awful, maybe. I don't think the offense seems to make sense. They make a lot of mistakes, but I don't think they're not an awful team. They're not an awful team. They've looked like some things made sense on offense a decent portion of the time. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they keep it close for maybe 2.5 quarters, and then Tennessee just pulls away. But I do think Tennessee wins.
Yeah, I was disappointed in Tennessee last week. I thought, listen, I've been saying for a few weeks I didn't think Arkansas is a very good team. Then they go out there and beat Tennessee at home. Tennessee late in the game just has not seemed like, well, overall, this offense hasn't looked explosive this year versus Power Five competition. These last two games in particular versus Oklahoma and Arkansas, who has a decent defense, but I didn't expect them to be able to stifle Tennessee in the way that they have. The Tennessee defense, though super talented up front, has not found a way to really put teams in the dirt.
Right.
This Florida team still trying to find their offensive identity. They're improving as the season goes along.
Yeah.
They're, working the 2-quarterback system, all the kind of stuff that people hate in college football. They're finding ways to make it work. But I just listen. I thought that this was going to be a Tennessee win before the season. I still think it's a Tennessee win now. Does Tennessee cover 15.5? I don't know. I don't know that they put up a 16-point deficit versus Florida, but back at home, I think Tennessee gets the dub here.
Okay.
I think Tennessee gets the dub here.
I'm with it.
All right. Next up, the Cinderella team for the year right now. The team we were talking before we came on. If we're being honest, this Vanderbilt team is very close to being undefeated this year. They're 3-2. With a narrow loss to Georgia State, still not sure how that happened, and an overtime loss to Missouri. They're taking on Kentucky, also 3-2 at Kroger Field there in Lexington, Kentucky. Kentucky favored by 13.5, almost a 2-touchdown spread versus Vandy. What are your thoughts on Kentucky versus Vanderbilt there in Kentucky?
Brother, I have no idea why Kentucky would be favored over Vanderbilt when one thing is proven on against Missouri, against Alabama, against Georgia State. Vandy can put up points. Their quarterback is good, and whoever there is designing their offense is good. They know what they're doing. Their defense might give up some points, but one thing that's been consistent about Kentucky, they can't score points against anybody. They're going to hold you to under 20 points for sure, but if you can't score 24, 27 points, then how are you going to beat me by 14? I don't believe that. I would take Vandy to cover here, just as I would have taken Vandy to cover, not against Alabama. I'm not going to lie, like I would have taken that. But against Missouri, yeah, I would have taken them there, and I would definitely take Vandy to cover here. I don't think Kentucky's beating anybody in conference by 14 this year.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have some struggles offensively as far as putting points up. Kentucky and Auburn are very similar teams this year. I think Kentucky has a slightly better defense top to bottom than Auburn does, but they're holding teams to, a respectable amount of points and struggling when they get into the red zone. Between the 20s, they look all right, but then they get to the red zone, they start to bog down a little bit. I am with you on this one. I'm not sure if Vanderbilt wins this game, but I do think that they keep this close. And I would take Vandy on the spread on this, but I would take Kentucky to win. I think just because I think Kentucky has the better defense in this game.
Yeah.
What you already said, Vanderbilt. This is the interesting thing, right? Because there is a subtle belief in Vanderbilt's trajectory as a program, but if you peel it back, it's largely because of the brain trust that came over from New Mexico and Diego Pavia that has allowed them to put up points consistently.
Yes.
And the thing that the head coach, who is now, I don't know how much of those I feel like the offensive coordinator for Vanderbilt right now is going to get a new job after this season. He will not be at Vanderbilt again after this year. Because a lot of people are going to want him on that staff at a bigger program. So he is going to either be an OC at a bigger program, or he's going to get like a group of 5 head coaching job, because they're going to want to install this offense and see if he can find another Diego Pavia out there to be able to run it. And I think Vanderbilt comes back down to earth after this year. And I say all that to say Clark Lee is solely responsible for the defense that's not really stopping anybody this year. And so if you lose the offensive brain trust that you have that's helping you stay in these games and get some victories, I don't know how you improve your program year over year if you lose them in the offseason. And I know I'm projecting an entire year out on this, but I'm just saying If Clark Lea's the guy and he's currently the head coach and defensive coordinator, and that defense isn't very good, how do they get better? So, yeah, said all that to say Vanderbilt keeps it close, but I think Kentucky wins this game. And it's going to be very interesting to see what transpires with that Vanderbilt program after this season is all said and done. All right. Next up, we will go to Ole Miss, number 9 versus LSU inside of Tiger Stadium, 6:30 p.m. under the lights in Baton Rouge in Tiger Stadium. Mississippi, Ole Miss, 5-1. They have a 3.5 spread in their favor in this game. 61.5 is the over-under. They're expecting a lot of points in this one, and anybody who's not expecting a lot of points in this one has not watched these two teams play. Yeah. This is going to be, I think, a shootout like this game has been for the last couple of seasons. Who do you think wins this game there under the lights in Tiger Stadium?
Oh, man. If I'm thinking with my hate, then LSU is going to win. We don't play them. Okay, we are out of the race completely, so we don't have to root for one team over the other for our sake. I want Lane to lose. I want all that hype coming into the year. Then you drop that game against Kentucky where your high-flying offense does virtually nothing. I want Lane to lose because Lane is Lane. All right. And he's thrown plenty of dirt our way and Hugh's way. And, hey, Hugh hasn't had a good record so far at Auburn, but I don't want to hear that from Lane. No. So whether or not I agree with some assertions made about Hugh, that is irrelevant. I don't like Lane Kiffin. So I want Lane to lose. I want him to have 2 losses halfway through the season. So that little ride, the little high that Ole Miss fans were on in the offseason, that can be over with, done. I think 2 losses effectively ends your bid for the top 2 in the conference, especially now that divisions are over. Like, you really got to have a leg up on one of the top 2 teams, and you're done. So, yeah, I want Lane to lose. So I'm going to project and believe for a loss for Ole Miss.
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at it at all. I mean, listen, I don't expect any defense to be getting played in this game. I think Ole Miss is a little banged up on the defensive side, and LSU is still just kind of mid on defense. I told people at the beginning of this season I didn't think LSU was going to have some colossal climb just because they have a new defensive coordinator, that they were just going all of a sudden, oh man, they got the athletes, they got the new coordinator. I don't believe it. Yeah. And they have proven to be a bit porous on defense. They get some timely stops because they do have good athletes out there, but yeah, I don't believe in LSU's defense at all. Ole Miss has proven. I don't even know what to think about this Ole Miss team, to be honest with you, because I watched this team get absolutely bullied one week and then go and do bullying the following week versus a bully of a team, right? Like Kentucky pushed Ole Miss around for 4 quarters.
They did.
And then Ole Miss went to South Carolina and essentially did whatever they wanted to versus South Carolina. And I'm confused. Like, who is this team?
Kentucky might be the taste of the conference when it comes to defense this season. They just might be. Georgia's not really that impressive. Kentucky might be the top tier defense in this. Well, I haven't really watched a lot of Texas games, so I can't say that yet. I heard the defense is pretty good.
Yeah, Texas got a pretty good defense.
Yeah, Kentucky might be.
I do believe that Kentucky might be the best defense in the conference, though. Yeah.
So it may have been an aberration for Ole Miss. Now, I don't think that's completely irregular, because I always think that Jackson Dart is not. He's not a guy who supersedes what the game plan and what the coaching is. You come across players who, you make this thing go. Diego Pavia, that's a clear example of you are the straw that stirs the drink, I guess you could say. We all know Cam Newton was one of those. Tim Tebow was one of those. And this year, I'll give Jalen Milroe some credit for being that. Since he turned it around last year, I think he's been that for Bama. However, I never thought Jackson Dart was that. If he was that he would have got out of college and he would have went to the pros, because it would have been apparent that, you are that guy, huh? We got to have you on our team. He's never been that guy. It's been more about what Lane can do and how easy Lane can make things for a quarterback. And he's a better than average quarterback. He's better than what we've got here. Jackson Dart will be an upgrade for starting quarterback at Auburn, but that doesn't mean he's that guy. And if you don't have that guy, a really good defense can dictate the terms to you. And I think that's always going to be possible against an Ole Miss team because they don't have that guy. So I'm going to stick with LSU, and I'm going to keep on hating.
Listen, I am not mad at the hate train rolling against Lane. And listen, I don't have a clear winner in this one, so I will let my hate make the pick. So I'm gonna pick LSU as well, just because I don't like Ole Miss. So they, I don't really wish good things on them. So this has no analytical value. Like, oh man, because if you look at the last 2 minutes of the third or the second quarter and how LSU is able, like, I don't have no analysis that tells me who's going to win this game. I just don't like Ole Miss. So
that's all we need. We don't need stats. We need hate. We need more hate. We have
LSU at the crib at night. We'll take that versus Ole Miss. Jackson Dart, 2 interceptions in the game, and I think LSU gets the dub by 6, 2 field goal.
That sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yep.
All right, and likely the game of the week as far as how much attention it's going to have and the prestige around it is the Red River Shootout, 2:30 on ABC inside the Cotton Bowl there in Dallas, Texas versus Oklahoma. Texas now number 1 in the country. Probably, if we're being honest, should have been number 1 the entire time. I get Bama had just beaten Georgia, but they leapfrogged Texas some kind of way, and Texas has been the most impressive team all season. Had the, whatever, but Texas is favored by 14.5 in this game. Number 18, Oklahoma. How are you feeling about the Red River Shootout?
I honestly don't know what to feel. This is one of those games where you can kind of throw what you expect out the window. They make this interesting every year. Oklahoma has issues with offense and being consistent. Texas they seem to be dominant on both sides of the ball. I wouldn't expect this. If I was just looking at the eye test on how they played to this point in the season, I'd say Texas by about 17. That would be what I say, but I can't call this game.
When you get into rivalry games like this, you definitely can, like, again, you can kind of throw some of the statistics out the window and you just you kind of make a gut pick. I'm going to take Texas. So. I'm going to take Texas in this one as well. But that Oklahoma defense is definitely a good defense. We talk about some of the best defenses in the conference. We mentioned Kentucky. We mentioned Texas. Oklahoma's right up there, I think, as far as, again, I'm not talking about statistics in the analytics. Right. I don't know where they rank in the country in defense, right? Like Missouri was like number 3 in the country in total defense just a couple of weeks ago. And you saw Texas A&M abuse them this past weekend. Yeah. So I don't know where they rank in total defense. But I do think that they're one of the better defenses in the conference. And so that's going to give them an opportunity in this game. You got Michael Hawkins, who is going to be starting his first one of these as a true freshman out there versus a very talented Texas defense and a Texas offense that has been clicking on all cylinders since the word go this season. Yeah. I'm going to take Texas in this one. But listen, if I were putting this on if I were a gambling man, I'd stay as far away from this game as possible.
Agreed.
Just because it's one of those games where you can't really say anything definitive about, oh yeah, this is definitely going to be this and that. Like, nothing surprises me in this game. So yeah, I'm going to take Texas, but who knows? Who freaking knows?
Who knows, man?
All right, that is it for the picks for this week. Those are all the games that we've got on the slate. B. Will, you gonna stick around for a little bit longer? Or you out of here?
I'm gonna have to jump in about 5. We can get through a couple of these comments though.
Yeah, we can talk a couple of these comments before B Will gets out of here. Appreciate the super chats that have come in. B Will's forehead says, is it basketball season yet? Well,
Basketball season.
B Will himself says it is. So
It absolutely is.
we're gonna roll with that. Appreciate the big money grip.
Jazzy.
Jazzy out here says, I
What
heard that
up?
we have a bye week, so I decided to open the coffin and look around. This is for all that I've missed. Appreciate you as always for the
appreciate you, man.
support, my guy Jazzy.
It's been glum out here. It's been glum.
Yeah, don't throw dirt on the coffin yet, man. Keep the latch open. Hopefully they resurrect after this bye week and something looks like a respectable football team. Centauri Calhoun says, I apologize, Ike, for screaming baby goat when it comes to Hank Brown. I've officially moved on to Auburn basketball. No apologies needed about your support of Hank Brown. Listen, it didn't work out for the young man. Listen, I was before the season like, man, if Hank Brown gets a chance, he ain't never letting it back. It lasted all of a game and a half.
They got to give him a chance, man. Give him a real
game
chance.
and a half. So no apologies necessary there. TJ Lou says, is there a culture problem going on in Auburn football? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Let me come back to this after the break because I got some things I need to say on this. I've said a few things.
Well, let me go because I won't be back after the break.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I started a new job a few months back. That's why I've been less present than I had been before. So it's crazy. Like you work a job for a long time, you work a couple different jobs, and I'm starting to see a pattern with how things are run, how much people buy in, the type of people you have working there, how some people can make work easier, better, and some people can make work worse. And I don't think there's anything less discouraging than having something clearly not work and have the people who are in control of things not change it. That sinks morale in any workplace I've been at where folks are like, man, they're not listening to us. We telling them about this. And they just say, oh, yeah, well, we'll keep going. Whether, you got to make your numbers or whatever type of job you work, you're going to see it everywhere. Sales, you got to hit, man. Oh, you got to sell this much. Yeah, but we do this and this makes it hard to sell. Just go do it. I think when you put out a quarterback who is every part of the offense is going to run through him, and you can't get the production, the performance, the reading, what you expect from him, it's one thing for that to happen, but you're asking everybody around that quarterback, everybody whose production depends on him, whose highlights depend on him, whose film for their future professional prospects depend on the one guy that you put under center, and you ignore that he's not getting it done, that affects everybody. Everybody. We've held every opponent outside of Georgia in the 20s, right? Oklahoma gave up. How many we give up to Oklahoma?
Was it 27, 28, something like that? Yeah.
27, yeah. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the offense was so bad, turning the ball over. We, gave people some points. So what I'm seeing consistently is the offense hadn't been good because we haven't had enough from the quarterback position. Whether you want to put that on the RPO, whatever they're asking the quarterback to do, he can't do the thing that Hugh Freeze says makes him who he is. And we have seen the results. So do I think it's a culture problem? No, I think in the preseason, the guys like each other. I think the guys in position groups like each other. What you are seeing is this isn't working, and it's also not changing. And that sinks. I don't think it's a culture problem. If the quarterback position worked, everybody be happy. Everybody be happy. We either be winning these games or we be losing them just barely and not being embarrassing on offense. The part that's not working is not the culture. It's the losing is what's, and maybe, yes, that can sink the culture, but I don't think there's everybody's winning, but they hate each other. Like this ain't Shaq and Kobe in the late stages of the dynasty. This is everybody would be great if we could get the production from the quarterback position that we wanted. So is there that a thin line? Perhaps that's the thin line. Perhaps if you let it go on too long, it does become a toxic, dysfunctional culture. I don't think it's there yet, but we have definitely underperformed, and this is what that looks like. A lack of trust in the head coach and his decisions, a lack of trust in the quarterback and his play and his decisions. And if it goes on too long, I think it could get bad.
Yeah, I mean, it could. But let me ask you this before you get out of here, B. Will. You've been a supervisor before, right?
Yep.
Let's say I'm going to try to give a semi-realistic scenario and see if this works. Right. So you've got a student worker, because I know you used to work with the students up there at the student, what you call it?
For sure. Shout out to all of them. That a couple of them watching. What's up to y'all?
All right. So let's say you put someone in charge for setting rooms for the weekend. Right. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, man, you need to make sure everybody in here sets these rooms properly. If you need me, give me a call. But you're in charge. I'm going to be at the house. Right.
Okay.
And 2 weekends in a row, there are issues that happen with how the rooms are set because they missed some crucial piece of equipment or some portion of the setup that was requested. And you get complaints about that 2 weekends in a row. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But the issue is you don't have anybody else who you can put in charge of those students to go up there and do that work. But you try somebody out, right? Mm-hmm. And it goes good the first weekend. But the second weekend that they're up there and they're the person in charge, it's just as bad as the other person who has less experience. I mean, had more experience, but was making the mistakes. Do you continue to say, all right, well, I'm going to put the less experienced person out there, even though we're getting similar results? Or like, how do you remedy that as a supervisor in that situation?
Man, there's so much that goes into it because part of it is you have to know these guys. Let's say the second person had been there for a year working with us or something, but the person who let me down first had been there for 3 years. It's like, well, listen, you know better because you've been around me enough. And the way I supervised and I managed was I'm going to let you see me do it right until I think you can do it right on your own. So if I'm even putting you in this position, it means I know you can do it. To betray my trust as the person with the most seniority means, no, you never get this shot again because you let me down and I know you know better. The younger person, I gave a lot of leash to people. You know what I'm saying? You take on as much as you want to take on. If you're going to take on more, then I'm going to expect you to do it right. But if you don't want to take on more, it's cool. It's not for you. And I understand that. The thing that doesn't translate in this this analogy is I just be up there doing it myself if I ain't trust you and you
correct
can't get out there and slay that field.
At the end of the day, in your scenario, you could just be like, all right, I'm finna go up here and just set these rooms. Y'all come on with me. We're gonna get it done.
Yeah, we're gonna get that done.
You know, but yeah, I mean, I think it's difficult for me to see a manager in a position where their assistant manager is not getting the job done.
Right.
And they have continued to just give chances to the assistant manager to try to get it right, which to the credit of the assistant manager, it looks right like 80% of the time. But it's that 20% that's been costly, right? Because, you know, and I gave this analogy, like if I drive down to Auburn, I usually stay at B. Will's house. Let's just say B. Will let me have his car to drive around to the stadium. And I drove to the parking lot where we go set up for the media. And I got in an accident as I'm turning off of the road into your neighborhood in your car. Me getting all the way to the stadium and back to the road into the neighborhood isn't really like, man, I almost made it to your house without wrecking your car. Nobody cares about
my car. What you doing? I need you to not wreck my car.
Yeah. Nobody really cares that you got almost there without the accident. It's the accident that we're focusing on. And if you just continue to, every time I hand you the keys, wreck the car, at some point in time, you gotta be like, bro, I can't let you drive my car no more. Like, I love you and we cool, but you cannot have the keys to this car anymore.
Yeah. It hurts me. It affects me negatively. And I can say this before I go. What I'm starting to see on game days down here is a level of apathy that I've seen creep in previous years. The Harsin years, the most recent. Year one of the Harsin years, everybody stayed engaged, so it didn't happen then. Year two under Harsin, 2012. That level of who cares, man? This ain't gonna really. I'm talking about the fans stop coming down here in droves.
Yeah, it's going to
The
be very interesting to see what that's going to look like after this. They get back from this road stint.
that's when I wonder how much the Auburn faithful will have patience with them, because it's one thing when you can get us some close games. Like year one, Hartson was like that. Like, did we lose games? Yes. Were we in these games? Yes, we were in these games. We had a comeback or two. We got comeback on. It was thrilling for the most part. We did more losing than winning that year. We all remember that. But this right here, where we are almost expecting to lose when we hit the field based on what we've seen. That is not a good position to be in as the head coach of Auburn football. I don't know how much longer the fan base, and by extension, the booster base, is going to put up with that, considering what they have put in to fund a roster to this point. We are putting money in for NIL, but we are doing a good job. The fan base is doing their job. Boosters are doing their job. The head coach is not.
Yeah. It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. All right, B. Will, I know you got to get out of here, man. I don't want to prolong that time. Yeah. We are going to be wire to wire with you all's comments here with your boy Ike Jones rolling solo for the remainder of the night. But you are watching the Midweek Report, brought to you by the good folks over there at the Rage Room. Make sure y'all check them out. We'll be right back. Comment section, Ike Jones, we here.
This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. The Opelika Rage Room in Opelika, Alabama. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Call or text 334-777-6688 to set up a session today, or check them out online at opelikaRageroom.com. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com.
As always, thank you to the sponsors of the War Report. Today's show is brought to you by the good folks over at Joy Mode. Head over there to tryjoymode.com. Use code REPORT to get 20% off plus free shipping. Let's call out the obvious. Everyone wants to head into the bedroom with confidence, feeling like the best version of themselves. But the problem is sometimes our thoughts get in the way of our performance, or maybe we feel like we're just not reaching our full potential. Sounds a lot like Auburn football this year. I don't know if Joy Mode would help, but, maybe it's got some cardiovascular benefits as well. I don't think anybody's out there tired, so maybe that ain't going to be it. But still, combined with a healthy diet, good sleep, and exercise, you will greatly improve your cardiovascular health with using Joy Mode. Head over to tryjoymode.com. You'll get 20% off plus free shipping when you use code REPORT. Again, that's tryjoymode.com for 20% off and free shipping. Use code REPORT, and we gladly appreciate those that do that. In addition, you can sign up for memberships with the War Report, and you can be a part of the Green Name Gang, getting all of the great perks of being a member of the War Report family. You can be like Tiffany B, and you can donate some memberships. So you can gift memberships to somebody, and they will get a free month's membership on you. Still doing some great members only content for you guys. We'll start getting into some basketball content since y'all want to pivot over that direction. We can do that. A lot of great things happening with the basketball team preseason, and it's going to be an interesting start to the season out there in the non-con. So definitely we'll look forward to doing that content with you guys. And check out the network. We are the War Report Podcast Network, the Auburn Express Uptempo Podcast, College Loop, Just a Sec. The Sooner Spotlight is also a part of the network now. Can't forget those guys. And we have the War Report Gaming channel, all a part of the network out there doing great things. Shout out to Dustin, who is taking over the Just a Sec podcast, and he's still out there doing his thing with the Uptempo pod. But consistent content coming from you for you guys, from the guys in the network. So make sure you check them out wherever you listen to podcasts, and I'm sure they will all appreciate your support in whatever way you can do that. Again, we're going to go wire to wire with your comments here to close out the show. Since I'm rolling solo today, it's about y'all, and we're on the bye week. There's no game to talk about, which you would usually do right now. The question that I posed as the subject line here, or the title of this video, is that Auburn needs to make some major improvements during this bye week. And what I want to hear from you guys is, what do you feel like those improvements need to be during the bye week for Auburn. I will start the conversation with what I think about it after I get a couple more super chats out here. My guy War Eagle JC says Splash Sports, the War Report Weekly Challenge, only $5 for a spot in the SEC Pick'em. If you guys don't know, there's an app called Splash Sports. You can download that app, and every week we're doing these picks here on the Wednesday night show. You can join in and a pool, $5 pool. You put your $5 in, and you look up TWR Ike Jones on there. You can find the channel and be able to get your picks in, and whoever has their picks mostly correct that week wins the pot. And, it's a little $5 you can win, depending on how many people sign up, 40, 50, 60, up to $125. I think actually up to $215 is the most, if it depends on how many people sign up. So go over there and get that done. Appreciate the folks who consistently are a part of that weekly pool. And we do this every week for the weekly picks. Anthony Long jumps in with a super chat. Says, I don't feel like Hank Brown was given a real opportunity. Peyton Thorne was given the job because of experience and decision-making, but he makes a head-scratching decision every game. Make it make sense. Only thing that makes sense about it is the dollars to me, right? Like, I just don't know. Again, I don't want to question the decision-making of the coaching staff about who they feel like puts this offense in the best position. So here's a frequent refrain that happens from people who want to support whomever is the guy that is the guy at quarterback specifically is, you don't know, speaking to whomever the naysayers are, what they see at practice. Trust the coaches. The guy who they have at quarterback is probably the best. And then you see Hank Brown come in and you see the 3 interceptions in the first half versus Arkansas. You see the near interceptions versus New Mexico. And you say to yourself, well, maybe they got it right. Maybe this is the best option here. You see, Peyton Thorne go out there versus Georgia, make some plays with his legs. And, he does some good things in that game, throws a dime to the back of the end zone to Malcolm Simmons, hits him in the chest. Couldn't put it any, you could have put it a little further out. But, I mean, it's a catchable pass in the end zone that would have gotten you a touchdown. You see him do some good things during every single game where you're like, yo, if he gets a little help right here, he doesn't have a drop pass here from Cam Coleman that got tipped for an interception that happened twice this season to him. Some drops in some other scenarios on some big third down conversions and things like that, right? Like, there are things out there that you see and you're like, man, these are good things. And then to your point, there's the head scratching things where you're like, yo, what was that? Like, inexplicably bad things that you don't expect to see from a 5th-year quarterback. And you're left to wonder, is this really the best that we can do offensively as an Auburn football team? And I don't know the answer to that question, right? Like, and so I'm left to trust what the coaching staff has placed out there as the product. But it is frustrating as a person who wants to see Auburn see their highest potential, to see it being stifled consistently, but mostly by quarterback play. Right now, this is not to absolve the other people on the offense that have done things that are detrimental to the success of this team. There, have been some bad fumbles and some big moments by running backs for this team. There have been some big drops and big moments by wide receivers for this team. And there have been that Georgia game specifically. I haven't rewatched that game in total. Well, I have rewatched. I haven't done a dissection of that game in total like I normally do, because we didn't do film review. I still have the film review for that Georgia game coming up for you guys in the Green Name Gang. But Percy Lewis seemed to be struggling that entire game. And I mean, that's one of the, without having seen that game in a very detailed fashion, just on really a live watch at the stadium and then a secondary watch as I was cutting up the film, I was just like, yo, Percy is struggling, bro. Like, he really struggled in that game. And there just does not seem to be a level of continuity with the offense. And I don't know what the answer to that is. A lot of people blame the scheme. Like, Coach Freeze is putting the offensive players in a bad position because, the RPO offense requires too much on the quarterbacks as far as the decision making, and they're not making good decisions, or they're not making the right calls in certain scenarios and not setting the offense up for success. And I hear all of that and I see all of that, but then I also see plays that absolutely would work if they were run the ways they were designed to work. And I wonder, that doesn't sound like a scheme issue. That seems like an execution issue. But if you're consistently having execution issues, what does that point to? It doesn't point to the ability of the players, right? Like, and let me qualify this, because this is a place where Mike G and I could not be further away from one another as far as what a rebuild consists of. When he hears rebuild, he thinks talent, and that is one way that you can define a rebuild, meaning you have to put more talent on a roster. But just having talent and having that talent maximized are not the same thing. Yes, you have enough talent on this Auburn roster to be able to win these football games, and your coaches need to put you in better positions to be able to do that. But I don't think the coaches are not putting players in position to be able to win football games. Again, you're seeing guys running wide open that are just not being thrown the football. You're seeing running backs being able to average upwards 6.5 plus yards per carry out there, and then they fumble the football, right? You're seeing drives being halted by turnovers, and it's like, it's not the coach's fault. Where you can blame the coaches, and there are some situations where I absolutely would put a lion's share of the blame on the coaches, is in situational things of like what play is being called, removing the option to change those plays. And then, I mean, listen, man, this is where I get frustrated with this, because I don't want to be sitting here talking about removing the option of audibling or changing plays or getting into different looks from a fifth-year senior quarterback. If you're going to put a governor on the QB, then why are you playing that QB? If the experience is, for me, the experience is supposed to lead to better decision making. If you're going to just basically have him aim in his direction and say, just run this play in this way, then you don't need an experienced guy to do that. You just need a guy who can complete the passes. You just need a guy who won't fumble the snap and can turn and hand the ball off when it's being called. The experience factor is supposed to be about better decision making. And if in crucial moments you're robbing the quarterback of his ability to make decisions because you don't trust him in those moments, then why does it matter if you're playing the more experienced guy? That's where it becomes head scratching for me. If we're removing the ability to make decisions from it, then the experience is not a portion of what matters in that scenario. It's execution of the play and who executes the play best. Now, again, that answer may still be Peyton Thorne. I don't know, but I'm saying let's throw experience out of the window if decision-making is not a part of the process of why we're making the decision for who we're starting on a Saturday. So it becomes a head scratcher for me as well. And it points to more systemic issues. And again, this is where Mike G and I differ in the idea of what a rebuild consists of. Yes, you have talented players, but do you have a team that knows how to win? You can have a bunch of talented guys that just don't know how in the crucial moments to dig deep and find winning plays. Playing winning football is not the same as being talented players. Those two things aren't the same thing, right? And you have to have a coaching staff that puts you in the right position to be able to make the plays. You have to have players that have the skill and the ability to make those plays. And then you have to have guys who their instinctive abilities in moments kick in and allow them to see things differently and anticipate things the way that they need to be happening. And then they find ways to make plays in big moments. And I just don't know that Auburn has found the right combination of guys that can do that. And that's not always going to happen just because guys are talented. You can have talented players that don't play winning ball. That absolutely can be a thing. And so a part of the rebuild is figuring out what's the right combination of those things. What's the right combination of this guy might have the highest star rating, but this guy is really the gamer, right? You hear Coach Freeze talked about this multiple times about Caleb Harris, right? Caleb Harris was a guy who was a 3-star who he said he wasn't even going to offer until he made the trip and watched him at practice. And he's like, oh, no, this is a football player right here. He's not the most highly rated guy on it, but he's a quality football player, right? And so it's not just about talent. Sometimes it's about evaluation of who is the right guy for this place, for this moment. And that's where You have to build that. You have to build your ability to do those things with those guys. And it's difficult to rebuild and build a consistent winner in the era of the transfer portal. Again, I've yet to see a program who can consistently go and rely on the transfer portal for crucial pieces, multiple crucial pieces, like one or two. Yes, you absolutely can go get a quarterback and he changes the trajectory of a program, a la Miami, a la Vanderbilt this season, right? Like the quarterback can change. But if you're going to Frankenstein monster this thing together with a bunch of transfer portal guys, that's hard to build a chemistry and build it year over year in that way. And that's what Coach Freeze is attempting to do. He's not just trying to put together a winner for this year. He wants to put a product or a system together that allows you to build consistent winners, because you've got consistency year over year in the guys that are going to be talented in those rooms, that understand what you're trying to get accomplished. They can teach the younger guys how to do that, and you build a pipeline of being able to do those things consistently. And it's a difficult path to do, and it's not going to happen quickly. And so again, that's where we part ways on the idea of whether or not this is a rebuild. It absolutely is, considering where the team was and what you're having to rebuild to make it happen, to get to that place with a lot of young guys in there doing it. Anyway, all right, that was enough of me talking about, and that kind of slide, I talked a little bit about cultural things in that, and I said I was going to come back to the comment that TJ Lou had, and those are things that are related to that. More super chats here. Another one here from Anthony Long, who says, Ike, if it's 5 minutes left in the game and Auburn is down 4 points, Auburn has the ball on their own 10, what's your confidence level that Peyton Thorne is winning the game? I ain't gonna lie to you, man. Nah, it's not very high. It's not very high. Because in that scenario, Auburn needs a touchdown and 5 minutes left in the game. You can still run the ball. I mean, how many timeouts you got left? A lot, but if it's requiring Auburn to make throws to be able to do that, and you don't have the option to run the ball with 5 minutes left, you still have the option to run the ball. So I feel a little bit better in that scenario. But if it's 2 minutes left in that game and we got to throw the ball to get there, and we only got like one timeout left, not very high. It's not very high, just because I've yet to see him step up in that type of moment and make winning plays. And honestly, the offensive line hasn't played good in those scenarios. So if you're going to have a quarterback who's not processing quickly enough, you've got to have perfect O-line play. And there's just so many reasons why I don't think Auburn wins that football game in that type of scenario. So not very high, to be honest with you. Super chat here from Connor Hall, who says, what would a win over Mizzou really do for the team? And does Peyton Thorne's antics on 4th and 1 call for him to be benched? I say get a backup ready over the bye. Listen, I believe Missouri, if you have any hope to get to a bowl game, is a must-win game for Auburn. If you have any shot to get to a bowl, I don't think you can. I mean, of course, you're going to be in a place where you're staring at a 6-6 season anyway. But this is one of the few games where Auburn has a good chance to get a win, just because I think Missouri is vulnerable. But you got to win that game, man. You've got to come out of the bye week with some momentum and get a big win against a team that will likely be in the top 25 when you face them, and give your team some confidence to be able to get wins, it's particularly on the road, because it's only your second road game of the year. So you need to get a solid win under your belt, and a road win versus the top 25 team is a good way to be able to do that. As far as 4th and 1 call, does it call for him to be benched? This is another thing that's when we talk about the culture of Auburn. Coach Hugh Freeze has been accused pretty heavily and repeatedly of throwing players under the bus. And I think that is. So let me back up. Last year, I was very loud and I think justified in saying that the messaging from the coach was not correct around, we're not talented enough as a football team to win games. I don't think that should ever be the message, that we don't have the talent to be able to win. I think that it's fair to say that this team on paper that we're facing is more talented than we are. But we have a chance to win every game, and I'm going to put my team in the best position to do that. I think that's a better message than, we're just honestly not talented, as talented a football. Like, okay, that might be true, but you don't have to be the most talented team to get wins. So I never liked hearing that messaging, even though I know that a portion of that was a call to recruits to say, hey, we need you on this football team to be able to get us to the place that we want to be as a program. Get all of that, understand the reasoning for the messaging, never liked it. But I did not and do not think that was Coach Freeze throwing players under the bus. I think his honesty in the moment gets construed in that way. But if you can't also hear Coach Freeze saying, we, as in the coaching staff, need to do better, and we need to put them in this type of positions, and we need to, and I need to, if you can't hear him in conjunction with those things, accepting portions of the blame. Now, I know we're in a place where you want the head coach to just go out there and say, it's all on me, it's my fault. No, it starts with him, which is what he says. But the players have a responsibility, and holding them accountable publicly, privately, all of those things is not throwing them under the bus. It's not. I don't think that's throwing them under the bus. Owning your portion of responsibility, but also saying, hey, man, if we do these things better as a team, then we will be in a better position as a team as well, is not throwing people under the bus. And I just hate that narrative prevails. And I say all of that to say this in regard to the 4th and 1 thing. Coach Freeze has been going out of his way, for whatever reason, to not throw Peyton Thorne under the bus. As much as people think he's thrown PT under the bus this season, he has been going out of his way to back his quarterback in lieu or in light of what has happened with this 4th and 1 scenario. You guys might have seen the video that I posted last night in regard to what I thought happened and what my eyes tell me happened in regard to the play call with all the information that was available to me at the time. And what has happened in conversation subsequent to that has been basically an overwhelming backing of Peyton Thorne's narrative that he ran the play as it was called. And it feels like just some semantics jumping through hoops to say, well, he didn't change the play. He just went with a different option that was available when you go down the decision tree. Right. But it's clear that's not what Coach Freeze in the moment wanted that decision to be, but he's gone out of his way to not throw Peyton Thorne under the bus. And if you're going to be loud and say he's been throwing him under the bus, you need to be able to commend him to say he had his quarterback's back in this moment, even though, again, there's plenty of evidence to the contrary, right? And so saying all that to say, I don't think Peyton Thorne gets benched. He's going to continue to be the quarterback. They got to figure a lot of stuff out here, right? And I've already mentioned this. If you're going to take a lot of the decision making out of his hands, then I don't know why you need to have him as the starting quarterback, other than you feel like his legs give you another element that you want to be able to utilize. So if you're planning to utilize Peyton Thorne's legs as part of the offense because he is the best runner, well, he's the best combination thrower and runner. I think Walker White's probably the best runner in that group, but he's the best combination of thrower and runner of the quarterback room. Then it's going to make sense to me. Okay, you want to utilize his legs as portion of what you want to do offensively, and none of the other guys give you that element. You're not as satisfied with where you are from an offensive line standpoint, and so he gives you the best ability to escape some of the pressure that might be coming. Like, okay, I can get with that, but if the decision making is off the table, then it becomes a different conversation for me. But all of that to say, no, Peyton Thorne will likely not be benched. He is going to be the quarterback when they march into Missouri next Saturday, and I don't see much changing that. All right, again, more comments here from you all. Let's see what we got back up here for a while. Skybox Cards says, have y'all been watching the Locked On Bama podcast? Not a day in my life. The guys are blaming DeBoer's apparel choice on the loss to Vandy. Excuses. That sounds about right. I literally, that's not even like an exaggeration. I've literally never watched Locked On Bama a day in my life. Robert Guy says, I have a change. Let's just play to the team's strengths and quit being system dependent with a QB who clearly doesn't understand what to do. Listen, again, if you're going to do that, then I think that opens up the quarterback competition, and it depends on what direction you want to take with your play calling, who gives you the best option, because it's clear from an arm strength standpoint that Peyton Thorne's not the guy who has the strongest arm. So is it going to be about getting the ball out quickly? And if that's the case, then you've got two other options that are I think are better. If it's going to be about, the combination of running and passing, then Peyton Thorne's the clear leader in that scenario. So I think a lot of it has to do with what decision they make as the direction of how they want to call plays for the team moving forward. So, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting for sure. All right, let's see what else we got out here. A lot of comments here. I appreciate you guys for staying in here with me. I'm not going to be in here too long, just kind of rambling, but Anthony Long jumps back in and says, feels like a wasted season. Hugh has been pointing at year 3, but he really could have been winning this year. Listen, Anthony, he could have been winning last year too. I think last year was a season where Auburn should have won more football games. And, it's clear he was focused on recruiting more than he was on game planning. He's been in the game plans this year, and the offense has taken a step in the right direction, but definitely has thrown some games away in terms of this season. Let's see here. Miller House saw Miller House at the game. What it was. Oklahoma game. I think we saw him at Tiger Walk. So shout out to you, Miller. But we have too much talent on this football team to only have 2 wins this season thus far. Agreed 100%. Like, listen, Auburn, I don't know that Auburn wins that Georgia game, but Auburn should only, in my opinion, have 1 loss on this season, and that's to Georgia. They should have won all of the home games this year based upon how those games played out. And again, there's the problem is there's a litany of reasons that you can point to, and which of these things do you address first and is the most significant? And Coach Reeves was actually asked that question on the SEC teleconference today, like, where do you start and what's the thing, if you could fix one thing, what's going to be the biggest priority? And he said it's the consistency of our execution as a team. Is what needs to be fixed. And I'd agree with him, right? In some moments you're looking really great and moving the ball consistently, and then you have pre-snap penalties, and you have, a guy missing a blocking assignment. Then you have drop from, a wide receiver. You got a turnover. Defensively, you've got coverage busts, and you've got guys not setting edges or safeties, not staying in their responsibility as the deep man. Like it's not just one thing. There's a lot of things that need to change. And listen, and this is where I will agree with those people who feel as if Coach Freeze needs to be more accountable. When it's systemic, I should say, then that points to the leadership or lack thereof, and that starts with your coaching staff. But I will say this. I would ask the question of Auburn players and coaches, who is the leader of the Auburn offense? Who is the guy who you look to and you rally behind and say, he's going to take us to victory? Now, for the better teams everywhere, that should be your quarterback. And I have to ask the question, if we're going to be honest with ourselves, does it feel as if Peyton Thorne is that guy? Now, again, if we're being fair, I don't know if that guy is one of those other guys. I think that Walker White is going to be a tremendous leader when he gets the opportunity. And I hesitate to say this because I literally just said I thought Hank Brown would not give the job back if he got his opportunity, and that was not the case. But I think the Walker White has kind of just that something about him that allows him to be a gamer, right? I actually still think Hank Brown has that about him as well. But he just looked like a freshman in that moment. But does Peyton Thorne have that? Can he? I was going to say, can he find that? But I don't know that you find that as a 50-year senior. Like, if you don't have it at this point in time, how do you go and get it? And have you just not been utilizing it? Or like, I don't know. And you need, if you're going to resurrect a season that is heading in the wrong direction, you need a leader that's going to step up and be that guy. So Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how you get to that place as a team to be able to have the leadership necessary to get you over this hump. But that's where you've got to find it. Um, Miller House says, I think Jarquez needs to be more of a vocal leader. He's been around longer than anyone in the offense, and he has to put some fire in his teammates. And so, I mean, listen, I can say the same thing about Jarquez Hunter that I can about Peyton Thorne. If you aren't that guy at this point in time as a senior, are you just going to blossom and be that guy all of a sudden? Now, Jarquez Hunter, from how he works and how he performs, like he gives maximum effort. He is a lead by example guy. But like, I don't know that you just find the ability. Maybe in spurts he'll step up and say something, but like Jarquez just isn't really that guy. He's kind of a soft-spoken, hey man, I'm just gonna put my head down and get to work type of dude. I don't know that he becomes that all of a sudden. And maybe, in the moment he'll find it. I don't know. But, and also, I don't know that he's ever been looked at as a guy who they look for that from, right? Again, it's usually going to be your quarterback. It's not typically going to be a running back that's going to be the guy that's going to have that leadership. But they need somebody. Somebody on that offense needs to be able. I think the defense has guys that can get him to dig deep and figure it out. I don't see it on that offense. There's a lot of young guys that are talented on that offense. Keandre Lambert Smith is an older guy that I think it can galvanize maybe that wide receiver room. But I just don't know who the leader is right now for the Auburn offense. It's going to be able to say, all right, enough is enough. We need to figure this out and get this done. And during this bye week, somebody needs to figure out where that voice is coming from. And again, I think a lot of that starts with the head coach, and Coach Freeze needs to figure out what his leadership voice is going to be for this locker room to get them engaged in the way that they need to be. Because he has not found the magic switch that gets guys locked in yet. And the consistency or lack thereof, I think, points to a leadership issue. And they've got to figure out where that leadership is going to come from. And again, that's going to start with the coaching staff. All right. That's enough of me talking, man. I definitely want to continue to get you guys' thoughts in the comments after the video is done, but make sure you guys are doing all the necessary before I get out of here about sharing the content with somebody. Definitely do that. Like the video before you get out of here. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're the War Report on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TW Report on TikTok. We'll be back at you all. Again, Green Name Game. I got y'all tomorrow with some office hours tomorrow evening. So make sure you got your notification bell set up so that you know when we're going live. And I'm about to get out of here, man. Appreciate everybody for jumping in here with me. If you're not a member, go ahead and do that membership thing. Gift the membership maybe before you get out of here. Shout out to the guys in the network out here. Again, we'll be back at you guys later on this week with more great content. Until the next time. And as always, War Eagle.